Wel- Welcome to the night's edition of the Klown Hour podcast, a Monday edition on the Klown podcast. I'm Scott Burks, your host. Co-host is Dwayne Nash. Please check him out on the yard / HBCU Sports, basketball, all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. You want to hear him coaching the crew, very entertaining, don't want to miss it, as well as great work on herosports.com when he talks about FCS athletics as it pertains to HBCUs. As for me, check me out on my blog, The Klown Times, at www.theklowntimes.net. You find me on Facebook as well, where you're on a smartphone, desktop, laptop, wherever you are, wherever you may be. Just type that in the search window. You'll find me there as well. And one last thing, please get the merch.
Get the merch.
CafePress.com. Please search for the Klown Times Sports. I will have the link in the description Tuesday after I upload this baby to YouTube, so you can get the gear there as well. And one last thing, I lied to you. One last thing, hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner with along the bell thingy, so you can get our lovely videos, our sophomore videos at times, and you find us there as well. I had to plain dumb fool after doing the Philly series. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, we might get a little sophomore today.
Yeah, I think we'll get a little what's the word we use? Petty. Get a little petty today. And so basically, I celebrate the small victories. So I just rebooted this challenge, so as you know, in last December. So we up to 94 subscribers. So once we get to 100, I'm going to go crazy and have a good old time. It's all about the small victories and the grind, which is very exciting. So please continue subscribing, continue comment, liking, sharing, or even you don't like it. Just spread the word.
One small step for Scott.
There you go. Anyway, I guess from those who remember me from the audio podcasting days, you will know him. He's one of my favorite NBA people to rap with. He's one half of the Weekend Adjustments radio show, which I sometimes will go on in the past and hang out with the guys and talk shop. Every Saturday, it's based out of Hamilton, 1450 a.m., The Ticket. So his name is Kevin McCune with the old school jazz hat on. We'll get to that in a moment too. So Kevin, welcome to the video podcast, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's weird talking to you without holding something up to my ear. You know?
I know, right? We tried to speak of small steps. I took that small step, which should have taken a long time ago, mind you, to the video side so we can sit here and hang out and chat. So it's been great, and hopefully it'll be great for you as well. So one of these days we'll get you and Jared on here, so we have the complete package on here.
Yes.
Very, very cool guys to talk with, man. All things NBA. So I'm very excited about tonight's podcast. So we'll get right into it, man. NBA playoffs. We'll get to you. Let's get the Jazz out of the way so that you have a happier podcasting experience. Yeah, I mean, this was the best Jazz team since the Stockton Malone days. John Stockton, Karl Malone for younger folks out there. Finishing down the top seed in the West, but the top overall seed, home court throughout. You had still have a stud in Donovan Mitchell, Spider, and you had the defensive player of the year and Rudy Gobert. And you had a 2-0 lead on the upstart LA Clippers. Unfortunately, as we all know, 2 up, 4 down, and it just happens to the best of us. So anyway, Kevin, tell us in your own words about your beloved Jazz of what happened to them and where it all go wrong.
Yeah, so let me start by I'm just gonna do that.
No.
No, this was a kind of a dream scenario for me as a Jazz fan. They come in with the #1 seed, had a great year, and like you should never root for injury in sports. I don't agree with anybody rooting for injury.
Correct.
You know, it's for entertainment, and so. But I will say, and I'll admit, when Kawhi went down, and then the CP3 stuff started with potentially having COVID or whatever he's having to quarantine, I was like, there's a seam.
Yeah.
Like Kawhi's not going to be there. If you can win 2 more without Kawhi in the lineup, you get to the Western Conference Finals, play as many games as you can before Chris Paul is able to come back. I mean, this could be an easy road. And man, that was the exact opposite of what happened. But yeah, I was very optimistic coming into the playoffs, and even when they were up 2-0. And for me, I'm a Utah Jazz fan. I live 1,600 miles away from Utah. I'm in Cincinnati. Scott, for my day job, I'm a teacher. I do all the media stuff on the side. I still work at WMOH on the side here and there, like when I can. But teaching pays the bills, and so I like to wear my Utah Jazz stuff to school. And this past year, I taught elementary for the first time, but I had been in middle school, and man, my middle school guys gave me so much crap for if I wear my Utah hoodie or anything. Like, they would just give it to me, and so I was like, all right, this is it, man. This is all that pain I've been taking living in the Jazz fan. This is going to be the year, and it just wasn't that way. And we touched on it before you started recording a little bit, but I really believe that in those last 4 games, Tyronn Lue absolutely coached circles around Quinn Snyder. I think the first 2 games, the Jazz did what they do as far as 3-point shooting, etc. I mean, if you just go look at the stats, the Jazz, almost every key player on the roster, and I know Conley only ended up playing 1 game there in the semifinals, but every player in the roster, really every main guy, Bogey, Mitchell, everybody increased their 3-point shooting percentage from the regular season by a significant margin, to where Clarkson's 35% from 3 was the lowest 3-point shooter the Jazz had at 30, as far as their main core group, at 35% clip. That's astounding. They shot incredible from the 3-point line. But the thing was, this was a live by the 3, die by the 3 team, and that was it. And then if they wanted someone to go to the basket, it had to be Mitchell, because there's nobody else on that team, sans Clarkson, if he's in the game, who has that ability. And then if they wanted somebody to get a board, it had to be Gobert, because there's nobody else on that team that has that ability. I mean, I was so infuriated watching Bogey just stand around when other teams would start to make runs and like just wait to get the ball to shoot a 3. So I think that was their downfall. And going back to what I said about Lue coaching circles around Snyder, was this. Lue got down 0-2. The Clippers got down 0-2. And then Lue said, I'm going to go small and I'm going to go fast, because my guys are way more athletic than their guys, and I'm going to expose them. And Quinn Snyder never tried to match. He never tried to match with a small ball lineup. And I don't know if the Jazz have, the particular depth to have been able to do it, but he never even really tried. When Gobert wasn't in there, he trotted Favors out there, who's, slower than Gobert. And so you see shot after shot of Gobert trying to extend himself to the 3-point line. And my goodness, has a point guard ever owned a center the way Reggie Jackson owned Gobert in that series?
Oh my God.
But yeah, to the tune of 4 straight, terrific job by Ty Lue finding out what the Jazz's Achilles heel was, and just awful job by Snyder never addressing it.
You know what? It's interesting because before these players, I thought that Snyder did a good job in terms of handling his personnel, like having Clarkson to accept his role to the tune of becoming the 6th man of the year. It's normally him and Joe Ingles, right? The first 2 guys off the bench. And so I thought that was a cool moment when Ingles actually surprised him with the 6th man of the year award while on camera, actually. So that was a pretty cool moment. But to see that transpire against Ty Lue and the crew, that's what astounded me as well, because I guess to your point, the Clippers are probably the deepest team left in the playoffs. Okay. So he looked at his roster, and he's like, well, shoot, all my guys could play. It's just that where can I use these guys? Right. And plus, let's put it this way. All the rosters in the NBA, to be to the NBA, you have to be able to play, right? We all know that. But the point is that these guys in the Clippers, they're so deep. Brown. Don't get us to Kwame Brown's crosshairs. That's on you, pal. Hey, not to say, just leave you. But don't talk about me and Kevin. Talk about him. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But the point is that, you had what's his name? Luke Kennard, right? Boogie Cousins. Guys that were seldomly used, he just threw up to get a lineups. Right. And then you have Boogie Cousins, like going back to 2016 or wherever, just getting and ones all over the place. It's just crazy and how he could be able to do that because again, 1 through 12, he could pick apart wherever. So it was good job from him, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Lou's even shown that, and you get into it. Like he even showed that in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where Rondo. I don't think Rondo played a minute in. It might have been the last 4 games of that Utah series. He didn't play, and then all of a sudden Rondo's a huge factor in Game 1 against Phoenix, and I think Lou's just taking advantage of his matchups. And knowing that Rondo maybe wasn't the best guy to expose Utah, but now he's able to utilize him against Phoenix. And but yeah, and I think in my rant, I think I took a lot away from Snyder and the Jazz and their inabilities, but I think I want to give credit to just the Clippers, to Paul George. I mean, Paul George got hounded by that Salt Lake crowd those first 2 games. Just every time he was at the line, and he struggled and playoff P, and all this, and then he put that team on his back. And I mean, he's playing the best basketball, I don't know, of his career, I feel like right now, and what he's doing since Kawhi's gone down, and man stepping up the way he did, turning into like I know going off there in Game 6, just the way he did. So I mean, all credit to the Clippers. They've played unbelievable to earn those 4 games, and just phenomenal.
Well, I got 2 more things about your Jazz, then we're going to let you off the hook peacefully.
Holding back tears.
Yeah. I won't force them out. I promise. I'll try not to. You up Game 6. I remember like tuning into Game 6 here in the first half. I'm like, well, they could shoot. They're going to try and force the Game 7. I mean, because y'all came on like game busters, man. They scored 72 points in the first half?
Yeah, 72.
Yeah.
72 to 50, and then Mitchell will hit a 3 to open the second half to make it 75 to 50. Yeah.
I'm thinking it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a curb stomping on the way back to Salt Lake City that close those Clippers out, and then you go on to Phoenix. Then all of a sudden, to your point, Terrence Mann happened.
Yep.
Different lineups happened, and I don't have the box score in front of me, but I think you guys allowed over 80 points in the second half.
Oh, they did. I know I did the math because I was so mad, but it was I know it was 80 something to 47, I think, in the second half.
81-47.
Yeah,
I just happen to have it right here in my hand, open still. Yeah, because I was doing a review in terms of the box score myself, since I never really got an opportunity to take a look at it because I was so angry. Because I mean, I probably felt like you, Kevin, after Game 4 and hearing about the injury to Kawhi Leonard. Oh my God, they're going to lean on playoff P. This should be a wrap. This should be done in 2 games. Let's get on to whoever they're going to play in the conference finals. Well, at the time, I think we hadn't heard that it was Phoenix yet. But either way, let's go. We're going to the finals. This is done. And then next thing you know, like I said, well, like you said, they were up huge in Game 6. I actually turned the game off. I said, but yeah, this is over. And we're about to, but no, my sister texted me and said, what is going on? I turned on the game, and next thing I know, I see Terrence Mann ducking on Rudy Gobert, and I said, what is this here? And then I see, of course, Paul George's stat line and saw that he had a huge game in Game 6 and said, wow, okay, so he decided to show up. This has to be an anomaly. This is not going to happen again. And I was kind of right. It didn't happen with him. It happened with Terrence Mann. Again, I said it before earlier. I don't necessarily want to give full credit to Ty Lue, but I have to because he did something that a lot of people that you hear preached against often as it pertains to playoffs. You can't go more than 7 or 8 deep, but they had the talent to do so, and he did it. To go ahead and try to find matchup problems, and it worked.
Yeah, they have Gobert. They took him out of the lane.
Yeah,
really took him because at times the 5 was sometimes Paul George.
Yeah,
and sometimes what I think did what's his name? Did Marcus Morris play in that series, or did he get hurt in this series?
No, he played. He played.
Oh, that's what I thought. So sometimes the fight would be either him or Paul George.
Yeah.
So they took, because they got Gobert away from the basket, so they opened up the lanes for dudes to drive.
Yep.
Or for those who got hot, get shot from the outside, they took Gobert out so he couldn't get any boards or block shots. It was brilliant.
I don't know, Scott. There's still that one time in which, like I said, I turned on Game 6, and Terrence Mann is giving Rudy Gobert the business at the rim, and I'm like, And then of course I get a message. This is your defensive player of the year, right? And I said, man, if you don't shut up, you don't shut up. Yeah.
I similar, like there are so many times when, Reggie Jackson would be handling it at, whether he's on the baseline, atop the key, and Gobert would come out on him. And I think, and it kept happening. And I was insane because I kept thinking the same thing. And I'd think, oh, he's going to challenge the defensive player of the year. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a drive and a block. And he drive and just put it in right past him. And I'd be like, what is going on? But yeah, I don't think we talked Reggie Jackson up enough. He shot 50%.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
From three for that series. I mean, that was nuts. But I think that's a role that he thrives in. If you look at his career,
yes,
is being, I think when he went to Detroit and he had to try to be the guy, I think a lot of people got down on him. But I just don't think that that's what his game is. And I think he's perfectly suited for the role that he's in with the Clippers right now. And again, credit to Ty Lue using him correctly, and Jackson played with so much confidence, and he was such a player for them in that series.
And also, I forgot that Nicholas Batum sometimes will play the 5. So there you go. That's how small they went.
Yeah, the guy that you think is shooting guard, small forward, tops for most of his career. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you one last question about the Jazz before we move on to other stuff. It just may seem like a silly question, but where do they, as far as next season? I mean, they've got the 2 young stars locked up, right? And I don't know if this is a contract situation for the rest of the important role players, just to say. But where do you see, or how do you hope to see them go from here as far as next season?
Here's the thing: it's a weak free agency class. If you just look at the upcoming free agents this summer, and so if Utah doesn't try to add via trade, I really am nervous. Just having read Mike Conley's comments after the season, after they left after Game 6, and what he said, me and my wife have really loved our time in Utah. I'm going to let this thing play out. And
wow,
that's like. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence as a Jazz fan that, hey, I'm going back. And I know there's been a lot of rumors that he might, because he's getting up there in age, and like he might try to ring chase and take less money, whether it's the Lakers or the Clippers or whoever, and if he does that, I can't blame him really. If you look at Utah's roster, I mean, if you look at, Bogey's going to be 35, and like even though he averaged 17 a game and up that a little bit in the playoffs and shoots really great from 3, he doesn't give you a whole lot else other than that. He played some solid defense on Kawhi in the first 2 games, but he got gassed. Like you could see throughout that series how gassed he got. You can't rely on him to really be, if we're being honest, if you look at that starting 5, he's the number 2 scoring option for next to Donovan Mitchell, and you can't rely on that and think that you're going to have the best record in the NBA going forward. Sure. So I don't think the Jazz have a ton of options. I really think that this was their window. As a Jazz fan, I have a ton of fear that this is going to be like another Deron Williams situation where Mitchell might eventually get fed up playing in Utah. I know he says he loves it and his family loves it and all that stuff, but honestly, I don't see what they're going to do to put around him, like what they could put around him in free agency. This year, there's nothing. So if there's not a trade or something that happens, I think we could see, I think you said they've got their 2 guys locked up, Gobert and Mitchell. I think you're a playoff team with those 2 guys, with Quinn Snyder, where teams are playing you 1 game. But when you get into a series and now guys know how to expose you and expose your weaknesses, again, I think that window is closing for this team. And I think as Mitchell's contract comes up, if they haven't done a significant amount to improve this roster, I think he might start looking to move to greener pastures in a better situation that's going to really, put him more in the national spotlight. I was rooting for a Jazz Bucks final because I wanted 6 people in the world to watch but, I honestly, Scott, like just looking at the free agency class, like there's a couple of scorers like Norman Powell if he doesn't go back to the Blazers. But what the Jazz need, they need length, athleticism, guys that can defend, and there's not a lot that's going to be out there really available for them in free agency. So yeah, I don't really see us. I say us, but as a Jazz fan, the Jazz.
Sure.
I'm not sure I see them getting back to the semis next year, unless they get creative in the front office. Because I mean, I love Royce O'Neal. He is, I love the term garbage player. I love, because that's what I always felt like I was when I play. Just does the little things. But like when you're relying on him to be a guy that gives you key depth and key shooting, I think it exposes the talent on your roster. And again, no offense to him,
Sure.
but yeah, I think that this might have been their window.
Wow. Well, I'll say this before we get more to the playoffs of the West. I mean, to your point, the West, you're going to have a healthier Lakers team. You're going to have probably definitely a healthier Warriors team because Klay Thompson's coming back. You know what I mean? So I don't know how. I'm not saying they'll be stellar like pre-KD, but still, the point is they'll be a lot better. And so the West is just always a grinder anyway, right? So Memphis is going to be better. The Clippers aren't going to go anywhere as well. So now they're with the Mavericks, even with their turmoil in the front office. So still, to your point, yeah, I could co-sign on that, unfortunately for you, but we'll see. I mean, the West is fun every year. I say that. Speaking of the West, I'm a big Chris Paul fan because he grew up at the crib. Like we're both from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So he obviously being 10 years younger than me, but the point is that, and went to Barber High School at that. I always pull from him. He went to Wake Forest University, which I grew up 10 miles from Wake Forest. So I was always a CP3 fan and was very sad when he wasn't available when my Knicks were trying to draft. Went to New Orleans, and we know how that went. But to see him get his shine in Phoenix, to see for the rest of the NBA, the NBA knows it, but the rest of us fans, to see how viable he really is. I mean, to me, I thought that he got shortchanged a little bit for the MVP award, but that's not a here nor there. I don't have a problem with Jokic getting it. I didn't have a problem for Embiid getting a lot of votes as well. But I get it. But I think Chris Paul was very valuable. But what I say all that to say this is that he was really instrumental in turning around Phoenix. Now I know Phoenix were undefeated in the bubble last year. They were pretty much improving. And so you can kind of see this coming, but not like this. And for him to go out do the COVID protocols, I felt really bad for Phoenix. I felt really bad for him. But I will say this, they got it out of victory in game one. And I know people will say, well, the Clippers were probably gassed, blah, 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 for coming off a series against your beloved Jazz, Kevin. But still, I think Phoenix, man, they're the favorite. I mean, I know some people are picking the Clippers, but I'm picking Phoenix in 7. I picked them before the series started. And Phoenix they're team to be reckoned with. I mean, the young stars are not afraid of the moment. And it will only get better once Chris Paul gets back. So Kevin, I know you were hoping for your Jazz to go up against these Suns, but you gotta. I mean, take a step back. These Suns are a big problem, man. They're a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I pick them in this, but can I be that Suns and 4?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. What they did the other day in game 1, and the Clippers were probably, like you said, coming off of that Utah series. So it kind of, I think, leveled the playing field with Paul not being there. But yeah, I love watching Phoenix play, and like I'm a big LeBron fanboy, and we've talked about that quite a bit in the past, and that, but like, I even watching the Lakers lose to them, just so impressed with just Monty Williams and like this offense that he's orchestrated, and like everybody's unselfish. Everybody plays fast. I mean, you think the Sixers could use Bridges right now?
Maybe.
I mean, his mom worked for the freaking organization, and you trade him away to Phoenix, and I mean,
well, there you go. Trust the process, right?
But yeah, from Bridges, Stephen Payne coming off the bench. I mean, there's so many guys you can name for the Suns. They play so well together, and they're just fun to watch. Like, I just enjoy like watching them. Like, it's just, like they play fast. I mean, like, and every guy has his role. Like Ayton, like DeAndre Ayton knows his role.
Yes.
You know, and that was one thing watching the game the other day, and I was like, this is where Lou's going to try to do to Ayton what he did to Gobert, and it's not going to work because Ayton is a more proficient offensive player than Gobert. Like, Gobert's defensive player of the year, 4 straight years, whatever, 3 straight years, however many it's been. But when it comes to the offensive end, I think Ayton's way more proficient. And I think there was a moment when they tried to go small, and I think Ayton exposed them. And but every guy in Phoenix has their role, and it's definitely, like you mentioned, you sung Chris Paul's praises. I mean, he just ties it all together as far as being the floor general, and it's just so cool to think, like, here's this guy coming in at the end of his career, but then you got this team where they're all really, I mean, I know Booker's been in the league for a little bit. He's still really young. Like, he's still under 25. Like, they're still all really at the precipice, like, beginning of their careers. Booker, Ayton, Bridges, who I mentioned, like, these are all young guys. And it's like, so Chris Paul's coming in. He's showing them how to do it, really, and how to be professionals. When you look at how bad they were last year compared to how good they are now. And then you look at Monty Williams, the personal tragedy he's had in his life, to come back from that and to be in this position, and to get the recognition that he deserves as, arguably one of, not the best coaches in the NBA, is just so cool. And then, Devin Booker becoming a superstar, in these playoffs is, I mean, he's been incredible. And I saw all these arguments on Twitter. Oh, who's better? Is Booker better? Is Tatum better? Who's the best player under 25? Like, why? It doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, let's just enjoy all of them, because we like, look at what Booker's doing right now. He's playing awesome. Let's enjoy it. And I don't know. They're just fun to watch. I'm pulling for him, maybe in part because the Clippers embarrassed my Jazz so bad, but too, they're just so much fun, really.
Yeah, and they're old school in the sense that they all capitalize on the mid-range game, right? With analytics, I'm a numbers guy for a living, right? So I'll out myself, but we all tend to use common sense, right? When we're watching the games, analyzing the games, you got to have a mid-range game. You can't just rely on threes and get close to the basket. It's not efficient. It's not realistic. You got to have a mid-range game. And that's why I think Phoenix excels more than any other team, because you got Devin Booker hitting the elbow. Ayton, if he wanted to, can come and hit the elbow, and you have other guys. Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder's another one.
I mean, he's a 3-and-D guy. And you mentioned Bridges earlier, Kevin. They're just so efficient. They're so efficient. The ball move is great. They're like a younger version of Golden State almost. With the ball movement, open shots. They don't take too many bad shots. And again, I mean, Dwayne, the two young stars are not afraid of the moment. They haven't been afraid of the moment these whole playoffs this far. They're not going to be going further. Obviously, Booker, Ayton, those guys, they're not afraid.
No.
They're playing like it, especially when the Clippers made their run late in the ball game. They're like, okay, just regroup, wrap it up, the end.
But I'll say this, it helps when you have Chris Paul in the building, right?
Right.
And then, Scott, we talk about it often. If every team needs a JYD on their squad, a junkyard dog, and they had that in Jamison Crowder. So another vet that, like you said, can stretch the floor with his jump shot, plays great defense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to call him a great defender, but he plays good defense. And then you have and then you have the young talent and the guys that you guys have already named. That team, that combination of players is just what's going on right now. And to the detriment of how LeBron James feels in terms of, oh, with the coming back early, all your stars are hurt. You know what? Now we're being introduced to young stars. This is what this is how pro sports goes. It goes through evolutions and waves. This is that new wave in the NBA. We're getting to see these guys that weren't on this stage before, and Giannis, and Trae Young, Devin Booker. Yes. And I mean, okay, the Clippers is the anomaly in the situation because they have, they're the elder statesman team in this situation. But still, for the most part, we're still getting a lot of young talent. We're getting interested, especially a lot of small market young talent. Even though the city of Atlanta isn't necessarily a small market, we haven't heard anything from the Atlanta Hawks in years, right?
Right.
So now we're being reintroduced to this organization as well with the talent that they have.
Right.
And hey, we don't have to get used to having Steph Curry or LeBron James or the same faces over and James Harden, Kevin Durant in the conference finals over and over again. We give this nice little reprieve, and I think it's going to be technically a reprieve. I still kind of asterisk this up to a COVID year, even though they still play the 72-game season. I won't necessarily believe this until it happens again, but I will say this: the teams that are on top, it probably won't be a whole lot of movement.
They're not going anywhere.
I don't know. I heard what you said about the Lakers earlier. I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on them just yet. I'm not convinced about what they have at that point guard spot.
That's fair. Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, yeah, LeBron will finally get the rest of the knees, but don't get me started on that. Because, dude, you had time to rest in between the time that the season stopped and you restarted in the bubble. Lord, I don't want to do that. But because I hear that argument all the time, I'm like, yo, the same amount of time that they had off from March till they came back in July, and then from when they went to title in November to December, is actually longer than the time that they have off in a traditional off season. But yet you need them. Okay, all right. I mean, I get it, but I don't. But I digress. But I think the biggest star for the Phoenix Suns that no one's really talking about is one Aliza Jane. And for those who don't know about her, I'm going to say you go ahead, Google her, and you'll figure out why she's a big star. Ever since her encounter with the team, the Suns have gone 68-23.
Oh, well, how about that?
Yeah.
Kind of like, what's the name with the lady at Loyola Chicago? What's the name of that nun?
Sister Jean.
Sister Jean.
Yeah.
Almost like a Sister Jean such a situation. But we missed your...
Well, she has a bit more activity with Sister Jean. I don't know if Sister Jean wants that type of word.
Well, that's fair enough. Okay, on my cell phone, check, Google that out. Because you're talking about stars too. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, even though he played on one leg because his ankle, he balled out. So that's another. He's a superstar now. Can we all agree that Donovan Mitchell's a superstar?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I thought so.
In this era, I'm very afraid he won't be on the Jazz his whole career.
I was completely surprised when he resigned. Because Kevin, it normally doesn't happen. You get a guy, he has a great first contract, and the next thing after that, he might, especially within the past 10, 15 years, he ends up going someplace else. Yeah. When he resigned, I said, okay, that's a mainstay. Let's see what they can surround him with. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the entire league based upon what you said of this free agency class. And not just that, the undrafted free agency class as well, to see who picks up this young talent and is capable of turning them into gold somehow.
Right. So let's move to the East, man. 2 Game 7s. One was epic. The other one will still have you scratching your head, but let's get to the epic one first. Brooklyn, Milwaukee. I watched from start to finish, brothers, and all I can say is wow. Wow from the standpoint it was intense. No dirty play, but it was intense, very intense. And the way that Kevin Durant went later on the game 1-on-5 essentially, because James Harden, God bless him, he gutted his way through it, but he was playing on one leg and it affected his performance, right? And of course, no Kyrie, which hurt him a lot. We're talking about health earlier. But what happened with Joe Harris? Has he hit a shot?
That's a wonderful question.
I mean, what happened? What happened to Joe? Joe Harris went from 40-some% three-point shooting in the regular season and three-point shootout champ to a no-show against Milwaukee. Were you as shocked as I was? Because I was like, dude, when you gonna show up?
Yeah, I think like Joe Harris he's a guy that, you know, you look at social media and other things, like a lot of people wanted to start championing him as like the Nets' fourth star, you know, and it's like, hey. But he's all right. But no, he totally, he's one of the reasons Kevin Durant had to shoulder as much as he did. And it's because he wasn't stepping up. I'll agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah. And so to the two, like Kevin Durant's toes right on the line when he hit the epic shot to send overtime. You know, a quick fact what I heard this morning was that he wears his shoes a size higher than what they really are. So, I mean, I think most of us wear, like, obviously we don't wear like exact shoe size for comfort reasons. But the thing is, he was by inches for winning the game for the Nets in regulation. And then we also replay. We're like, right? So, and of course, we all know what happened. But, I mean, I don't blame KD. I know he went 0 in overtime. He was gassed.
Yeah. My thing is, with him being so gassed, one, see, this is what happens when you have a rookie coach. Team should have known that he was gassed at this point. Why is he taking the most shots out of anybody in that quarter? Well, in overtime. My other question is, no one else can step up? Yeah. No one else? I mean, as a matter of fact, God, what's the guy's name? Is it Bowen? Bowen was the only one that hit a shot in overtime, right? Of everyone else, Kevin Durant took half the shots in overtime. That's number one. Number two, as much as the injury is an excuse, but can we be real for a minute here? This is what's the word I'm looking for here? This is vintage James Harden in the playoffs. This is 5 for 12 in a clutch situation. We've seen this movie before. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask once again, we talked about this before several times over the past several years, Scott. It's about shot selection.
Yeah.
The shooting percentage from outside the three, again, if they would have taken half of those threes within 17 foot, okay, maybe they walk away with that game and they're playing against Atlanta coming up. But no, you live by the three, you die by the three, and sometimes it's a death that has me scratching my head often when I'm like, you see that it's not Houston bad, and it's not Milwaukee bad over the past couple of seasons, but it was bad enough to get you eliminated. Oddly enough, to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
So, God, it's just those two things. The one thing I really did not plan for to happen this year was for James Harden to be playoff James Harden. I really didn't. But he does have a great scapegoat in terms of the injury.
Yeah, I mean that hamstring. I mean, I don't know if any of you us had hamstring injuries. I mean, his was strained. Thankfully, it wasn't pulled.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I ran track, I had like a slightly strained hamstring, and I'll tell you what, man, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. So I could imagine. I mean, a dude playing at the highest level with a highly strained hammy.
Yeah.
I'm to gut through it. I mean, look, I know we're all cynical guys, right? So I know that when you hit the court, you assume the assumption is you're able to play. You're able to give it your all, right? Once you step on that court, especially at the highest level. But for him, and you know, again, like you said earlier, he's done this before in Houston. When he doesn't show up. They had Golden State down 3-2. I know Chris Paul got hurt in game 5, right? But Houston had home court advantage. They had game 7 of their place, and I forgot the horrendous stat from 3 that James and not only James but the whole team, but especially James.
Like 0 for 22 for a stretch there. It was something insane like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen this.
Yeah.
And also here's the OKC when they play Miami, against LeBron and them, like he didn't. I mean, I know he was like maybe his 3rd or 4th year in the league at that point, but he was the top 6 man and he didn't show up then. So it's a recurring pattern. And so to him, you hate to see guys go out like that, like KD just literally even on the floor, played every minute of the game. That's a lot to ask. It really is. Even as someone as great as KD, especially when, again, he was positionally playing 1-on-5, Kevin.
And for everyone who is blaming Kevin Durant for not carrying the Brooklyn Nets to the conference finals and saying that he's not the best player in the league because it didn't happen because they didn't win, stop it.
Yes.
This Bama played almost 130 minutes, averaged almost 40 points over the past 3 games.
Yes.
Averaged almost 10 rebounds per game as well in the last 3. Stop it.
And he had a triple-double too. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on 100% agreement. I mean, I said earlier, I'm a LeBron fanboy, but I'll say this: what Kevin Durant showed is that he's the best player on earth right now. You know, and like in my opinion, that's what he should like. He's the best player in the world. And I don't know if you guys saw the viral photo of how big his feet are. I forget how big Kevin Durant is. I just forget. Even though I watch him play and he's taller than everybody else, I still forget. Like, and so his toe is on the line, but the man's got the largest feet I've ever seen. And as far as length, it's insane. But when it comes to Harden, and you guys can maybe send a clip of this to Freezing Cold Takes next year if I end up being wrong. But I have a lot of fear for this Brooklyn team that they're going to be the second coming of those late 90s Rockets teams.
Ooh.
When Clyde Drexler teamed up with Olajuwon and Barkley, and then retired Pippen joined the cast, and because you look at Harden, he had the hamstring injury. So and as a LeBron fanboy, I know I argued with people on Twitter, he had a high ankle sprain, you can't get so I have to have that same sympathy for Harden. I have to extend that to him as well because it's only fair. But still, he looked old, and as far as he looked like playoff James Harden, and the dude's never been in the best shape. But I thought he looked old to me, and so I feel for Kevin Durant if that with Kyrie just never being able to stay healthy, especially. I mean, it's a story of his career. When the playoffs come, he just can't stay healthy, and I'm not dogging him for that. But it's just unfortunate. The dude's just been injury prone his whole career. So when you look at that big 3, I think for me and Scott, I think we tweeted about it back and forth. I think Brooklyn was always the favorite for me, but the only thing that would ever stand in their way was health. And that's what got them in the end. And it bit Kyrie, it bit Harden. And I don't know, I can't confidently say that next year they're all going to be healthy or the year after that, especially as they're getting into their mid 30s. And Kyrie's not young anymore.
No.
And so, so I do have that fear for that Nets team that we might never see it just because they're battling father time. They're all guys that have had injuries in the past, and they got to do something too. You talk about the Jazz having to do something with their roster, the Nets have to do something. Yeah. Because whether it's like Dwayne, like you said, finding some undrafted guys that maybe some gems. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Nick Wright's take saying that it's time to say, hey, Steve Nash, thank you so much for your service. You can be the bench coach, the assistant. But we need to go get us a vet coach that knows how to win.
Dwayne, want to take this one?
Man, that's a very interesting question. I don't know. That is harsh to say that because they didn't do it with their full complement of their full roster. the question that I do have, like I said before, is still James Harden. We have a history of James Harden based upon what he's done in the playoffs. That's why when people say, "Oh, it's his injury," it's his injury. Sadly, his play didn't seem as though that it was diminished based upon what we've seen him play previous seasons in the playoffs. It was pretty much still on par to what we've seen, which is why I'm like, okay, you can say injury, but it's not much off of what he has done in those situations. So if they can ever get a situation like that, I would say give it one more year. But you really can't blame Steve Nash for injuries. What you can blame him for though, is just saying into his players' ears or something. Hey, you may want to take better shots than what you're taking. You know what? KD didn't play 200 minutes in the past game and a half. How about you guys pass the ball to somebody else? Mm-hmm. He's played enough. Allow him to be out there and be a decoy. Don't let him take the most shots in overtime. That last shot was very telling of how gassed he was. Oh my God. It was like watching, you know what? I don't even have a good analogy in that situation that won't be too offensive. But either way, it was very sad to watch him take that last jump shot. Yeah. And without knowing the context, because unfortunately, and I'm going to say this out loud, I didn't get a chance to watch the game as it happened the first time. Thank you, USA Olympic Trials. But I did see the highlight and didn't watch the game and was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. But yeah, there are just certain things that you would hope that a coach would tell his team, and basically what? Adjustments to make throughout the especially in the fourth quarter and in overtime to help them win that game, because it wasn't out of reach. It seemed like there were moments there where the Milwaukee Bucks didn't want to win in overtime either. It just happened to be that they made one more bucket in that one trip to the free throw line that was better than what Brooklyn did, and they were able to hold on. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to throw I'm about to call him Kevin Nash. I'm thinking about the whole different cousin of mine. Yeah, I don't want to throw Steve Nash out just yet, but yeah, if it happens again and injuries aren't involved next year, you might want to rethink that.
Here's what it felt like to me, and this is as a big Cincinnati sports fan. So if there's any Cincinnati sports fans watching, I'm too young to remember the Big Red Machine, but I've heard stories of when Sparky Anderson got hired in the Big Red Machine. Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, all those guys came to him and sat him down and said, "Don't get in our way. We'll make you great." And it felt like almost like Steve Nash was just sitting back and like, "Okay, Kevin Durant, go win it for me," and that was kind of the feeling I got. I don't know.
Well,
that's the way it seemed. If you look at the shot selection, yeah.
Yeah, and plus they only play 7 guys the entire series. I mean, if you got to develop some guys, some bench. You got to develop more role players to help out, because again, no Kyrie, a hobble James Harden, no Spencer Dinwiddie, lost him early in the season, right? So whenever you have these super teams, what suffers tend to happen in the salary cap area? Your bench.
But you know what?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, they supposedly were to have made moves to help out that bench. And we saw it a little bit in the earlier rounds, especially with the play of Blake Griffin. But
yes,
what happened in Game 6 and 7? It's still a head scratch to me. You know what? My God, I'm hoping this isn't what happened. Social media got to Kevin Durant, as we know it can.
Again.
And he wants to go out and prove to the world that, yo, I'm not who y'all say that I am. Look at my resume. And now I'm about to show you again that I am that dude. And he showed it that first game in Game 5 when he got that triple-double. Yes. And shot for 70% and had 47 points, right?
17 boards, 10 assists, yes.
Yeah. And then he had a decent game in Game 6. But they lost that game. Well, actually, no, they didn't have a decent game in Game 6. I take that back. The Bucks won at home. I take that back. But yeah, No, he did. He still had like 30 points in Game 6. I take that back. He did have. It was that the rest of the squad didn't show up for him, and yeah,
again,
that's the thing. You would hope that these guys that they picked up, Jeff Green. What did Jeff Green do? Well, Jeff Green only had 5 points in Game 6. Joe Harris only had 9. Yeah,
Jeff Green was in Game 7.
Yeah. See,
so. Oh, well, I'll say this, guys, and you guys will probably agree with this. What I'm about to say, you gotta give credit to the Bucks too. I mean, the Bucks finally got over that hump.
Yeah.
I mean, Dwayne, like Kevin, like I always tell Dwayne every year, and I think I told you this too. You and Jared this. Gerard rather. I do not typically trust Milwaukee in the playoffs. I do not. I haven't for a while, to the point where last year. And Kevin and Jared and Jared would be my witnesses in this. I said, do not sleep on Miami.
Yeah.
When Miami played them in the second round, I'm like, Miami's tougher than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they gentlemen swept them. Beat them in 5. So, I mean, at least, I guess the combination of bringing in Drew Holiday, acquiring PJ Tucker at the trade deadline, that gave Milwaukee some toughness. And PJ, God bless him, he's all 6'5", built like a football player. But man, giving up 5 inches to Kevin Durant, but man, was he tough on him. Hounded him. You can't stop Kevin Durant. You could only give him problems. You only bother him. Combination of using him, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, all capable defenders. And speaking of Middleton, how about Chris Middleton? He showed up. He won his game 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew had a terrible shooting night, but he made for it on the defensive end. But still, I mean, you gotta give credit to the Bucks because we were 1 game away from having the new coach of the Milwaukee Bucks for the next season. And I think Budenholzer is probably, I mean, hell, they're the big favorites now against the Hawks. We'll get to them in a moment, but still. I mean, you would think that they have a clearer path to the finals, right? And with Philly being out of it, but I think Kevin, I always said before with Dwayne that whoever would come out of the Brooklyn Milwaukee series, because I thought they were the 2 best teams in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought they would win of that series would win the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it looks like it may because it's Milwaukee's title to lose in the East. Now, what happens out with the Western Conference champ is another issue, but I like Milwaukee to win the whole damn thing now. But it's putting the cart before the horse. But so I think Milwaukee now, Kevin, I think they got the toughness to do it. I think they got off the hump. I think Giannis is getting a little bit tougher now. So I think, again, it's great for Milwaukee. Got to give them credit.
For sure. And, everybody on social media was getting Giannis for shooting too many threes. He's only shooting at like 19% from 3 these playoffs. But Dwayne, you talked about it earlier about how the Bucks just aren't a great 3-point shooting team. I'll say this, coming off of watching the Jazz collapse and watching the Bucks play the next night, for me personally, it was a breath of fresh air because I'm like, oh my gosh, this team goes in the net. Oh my gosh, they get in the key and what? He just shot a hook shot. What is this, 1998? They don't really shoot it well. I mean, you look at Holiday shot 39% from 3 for the regular season. He's shooting like 24% during the playoffs. So he's like he's crashed there. But like Chris Middleton's like their only consistent 3-point shooter right now in these playoffs. Brook Lopez is shooting 34%, but you're not a good 3-point shooting team when Brook Lopez is your second best 3-point shooter.
Right.
So credit to them, they do play a little bit of old school as far as like going in, attacking the basket. But I think there are some teams that would benefit Utah, excuse me, that from doing that a little bit more. And Scott, I have to agree with you. I think coming in against Atlanta, I think Milwaukee's got to be big favorites to at least get there, if not win the whole thing. And let's quit saying that all credit to Giannis. He's amazing. Like, he's an incredible player. He's an incredible talent. I just talked about, I love the fact that the dude still shoots hook shots in 2021. Like, but let's quit the narrative of Giannis took out KD. Like, I don't like,
Yeah.
I feel like yes and no. I feel like Milwaukee plays good team basketball. I feel like Drew Holiday, even though he's only shooting 24% from three, he's a smart player. And Chris Middleton is proving that he's a star. Like, you know, maybe he's not like a top 10, 15, 24, but whatever tier you want to put him at, he's a star. He averaged 20 points a game during the regular season. The guy can, he's a good basketball player. So, you know, Giannis has a decent group around him. When you look at Lopez, Middleton, Holiday,
Right.
and so I don't know. I don't like the narrative that Giannis took down the super team by himself, because, you know, as good as he is, I don't think that is what happened. But I would say, Scott, 100% agree. I think Milwaukee's got to be favorites in the East to at least get to the finals at this point.
Yeah, because Milwaukee really has a big three themselves: Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last I checked, Middleton and Holiday don't suck. So I mean, it's not like he doesn't have any help. But yes,
I don't know, man. I think I might want to call him a medium three, because we've seen spots from this squad over the past 3 years that they take games off where they end up having bad shot selection. And the thing you can't do against this Atlanta Hawks team is have bad night shooting.
That's a good point.
For two reasons. One, they got shooters.
Yes, they
and
do.
Two, the one thing that I don't think anyone is giving this team credit for is that they're pretty good defensively. They may not have a huge defender or a dude that's out there that's a great a shot blocker, but what they'll do is they'll cause you to have bad nights. See the Atlanta, not the Atlanta, but see the Philadelphia 76ers over a couple of games. Matter of fact, the one game where matter of fact, it was 2 games where Joel Embiid had bad fourth quarters. Matter of fact, that's not all Atlanta Hawks. That's mostly Ben Simmons, as we're starting to learn, in terms of, oh my God, what he's hitting. Well, he's hit, not hitting. Hitting's not a word, unless we're talking about music. But he's hit 5 shots further out than 10 feet in his entire playoff career of 37 games. 5. That's insane for a starting point guard that is also an all-star.
Yeah.
You know, just taking bad shots. But they also did the same thing to your beloved Knicks, a team that
the Knicks owned them in the regular season.
Yes.
They swept them in the regular season.
This is a team that was shooting 40% from 3 in the season coming into this series. And I just thought, okay, yeah, the Hawks got Trey, but the Knicks got some shooters. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't looking right. Okay, maybe. No, this is just an anomaly. Didn't it happen again with the Sixers? I don't know if it's an anomaly. I think it is starting to be a thing. And who they got next? Another team that also takes bad shots too, in the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm not automatically just handing over the keys to the Bucks just yet. They got talent, but yeah, they also got an Achilles heel too.
Speaking of New York, Julius Randle, I'm still looking for you, pal. Where are you? I'm still looking for you. You cost yourself a lot of money this postseason, pal. You ain't a max player anymore. I'll say this, man, before we move on to Atlanta and Philly right quick. Speaking of dumb shots that the Bucks take, you hear Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA, was it game 5? He called the Bucks the dumbest team in the NBA because they take bad shots. There's one thing they had this advantage over Brooklyn. They're going to have the same advantage over Atlanta. Their height. They're a big squad. That could happen to shoot, like a couple of guys could shoot, but they're a big squad. Brook Lopez, keep your big ass on the block. Don't go outside. You're 7 feet tall. That's a waste of height if you're out on the perimeter. Get down low, help abuse that like the heck out of Capella. Get him in foul trouble. Same thing, Giannis. You're 6'11", an athletic 6'11", but you're 6'11". Get your ball on the block, okay? Bludgeon Atlanta inside. Get those guys in foul trouble. Ball game.
But see, the thing is this, though, Scott, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the Hawks allow, well, I shouldn't say allow, because Joel Embiid should be a walking 30-15 dude every game.
Right.
But he's had games like that against the Hawks. But when he has those games, everyone else on that roster has faltered. The same thing can happen to the Bucks, where Giannis can have a huge game. Chris Middleton might have an okay game, but we've seen Drew Holiday have bad games. Yeah. We've seen Lopez have bad games.
Yes.
And they don't necessarily have a deep squad that can put up buckets. So,
correct.
Again, I don't see Drew Holiday necessarily putting the clamps on Trae Young. And, oh my God, your boy out of Maryland, I can't read, what's his, how do you pronounce his name? Horder? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah.
I think it is Herder, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, from College Park, Maryland to College Park, Georgia. Who would have known, right? Had that huge game. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Red Rifle. Call him the Red Rifle. He's red. Call him the Red Rifle.
Also, maybe Opie from the Andy Griffin show.
yeah. With apologies to what's the name of the former quarterback here in Cincinnati dude?
Dalton. Yeah.
Andy Dalton. Apologies to Andy Dalton. He's the new Red Rifle. But sorry about that.
But yeah, he had a huge game 7 against the Sixers. Yeah, I'm interested to see how the coach from Milwaukee is capable of making adjustments, but we know that he does a poor job of that, and he might end up getting out coached by Nick McMillan. And 2, how would they face off against these Atlanta Hawks and their shooters?
Well, let's go back to Atlanta and Philly series since we're talking about Atlanta a lot, and for good reason. They deserve to be here, obviously. I think we all agree they deserve to be here.
Yeah, they surprised me, but they deserve to be here.
Oh yeah,
they put in the work.
A bunch of folks outside of Atlanta, but still, they play their way into it. Okay, I got a lot of questions about Philadelphia. All right. First of all, it's easy to pick on Ben Simmons. I've been picking on Ben Simmons for the past 2 nights, and I'm gonna keep picking on him because if you're an NBA player, you're a 6'10" point guard. Yes, I know you're a great defender. Yes, I know you can rebound. Yes, I know you're a very good passer. But to make a living in this league, you gotta be able to shoot the basketball.
It's called basketball, not rebound ball.
Yes, you got to not only be able to shoot the basketball, you gotta be not afraid to shoot. I think he's just afraid. And we saw what happened like in the last minute. You're down 2 to the Hawks, right? Simmons has Bogdanovich or whoever his name is on the block. He gets him with a spin move, has a clear path to a dunk. What does he do? He passed the ball to a non-suspecting teammate. He gets fouled. Hits only 1 of 2. They're down 1. They could have been Ben Simmons could have been in an and-1 situation because he had a dunk. And it would have been a different ball game. And, we all know Embiid is not the healthiest cat in the world. That's to keep himself in any good shape. Let's be real about that as well. And then you have a coach who I love a lot, Doc Rivers, who, gosh, this is like, how many big leads has he blown? Starting from last year in the bubble.
A lot of time-tamies, not even just with the Clippers. I mean, there have been some situations
with Boston too, and
Boston
too
as well.
And, in game 7s, he's not that great in game 7. So it's a lot of blame to go around. But Kevin, I'll kick it to you, D Nash. Who do you think, if you want to give percentage of the blames, that's fine. But who gets the lion's share of the blame for Philly? Just flat collapsing against the Hawks, man.
I don't know. I mean, they had a few epic collapses in that series, and then the series overall is just an epic collapse, especially when you talk about what the expectations were for that team compared to the Hawks.
Right.
It's tough. It's tough. I didn't necessarily. Here's the thing. I agreed 100% with what Doc Rivers said in his post-game press conference.
He was honest.
Yeah, I agreed with it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with him saying it.
Right.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, for those listening, like someone asked him, is Ben Simmons the starting point guard of the Sixers? And he said, I don't know. Like, he basically said, I don't know. And like you said, it's an honest answer. And I think if you're going to answer in that way, I think that maybe Simmons isn't part of the Sixers' future plans. But I'm not so sure what his trade value is right now. I mean, Dwayne said the guy can't shoot. I don't.
Right.
You know, how are you going to trade that contract? Who's going to find that attractive right now? I think, I don't know. I like Doc Rivers a lot.
I do too.
It's hard to say. I think it's mostly, I got to put it on the coach here. But did you guys see the video when Simmons did pass up that dunk, or if he wanted to, it could have been a layup, you know, if he was more comfortable shooting a layup. He passed it up. Did you see the video that stayed on, where the camera stayed on Embiid and his reaction?
No, I missed that. I totally missed
like
that.
he threw this, like you could just see, like he was rejected. Like he was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I think that the Sixers have a chemistry issue.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that has to be put on the head coach. If there's a chemistry issue, you know, like I said, in my day job, I'm a teacher. If there's an issue between kids, you know, I don't get mad at the kids, but if I sit two kids that don't like each other next to each other, I put them in group projects and I constantly create situations where they're at odds with each other. I don't blame the kids. I got to blame myself, because I'm the one that's supposed to be managing that situation in that environment. And so Doc's the one that's supposed to be managing things. And if you saw how dejected Embiid looked when Simmons passed that up, there's a chemistry issue. There's something, I think, that's not right. Maybe even in the relationship between their two stars.
There's rumors, by the way,
yeah,
to your point.
For sure. And like, there was a point in Game 7, I was sitting there watching it, when there was a screen set. Simmons has got at the top of the key. I think this was maybe third quarter, and I mean, it happens all the time. So, you know, but this was just this particular moment that I had this thought where there's a screen set and Embiid goes out to the top of the key. Simmons starts to drive, passes back, and Embiid takes a three. And he might have made it. I can't remember. But the point being here is that I had this thought in that moment, and I was like, man, what, like, a point guard just deferred to his center for a 3-point shot, like set up a play so his center could take a 3-point shot. And like, what other point guard center relationship in the history of basketball has this ever been the way things work? And I was like, this, you know, it's just bizarre. And so, I don't know. Yeah. But as far as your question, I think I put the lion's share of the blame, I guess, on Doc for, I don't know if it's just not Simmons not getting the confidence he needs. You heard, I mean, he's going to skip the Olympics. Right. And he's going to develop his skills. I mean, the dude needs to be putting up 1,000 shots a day.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. And I think someone said that too. I don't know, it was Kenny Smith that last night. I don't know. I forgot who the hell it was. Maybe Chris Broussard may have said something about that this morning on Undisputed, but someone needs to get in Ben Simmons' ear. Someone had to get into his ear a long time ago, but someone needs to get in this young man's ear, because he's only 24, if that. He's still a young man. So it's not too late, even though you can never say never, but someone has to be in his ear and say, put up 1,000 shots and teach him not to be scared to shoot. I saw a lot of fear. I saw a lot of fear.
Yeah.
In that. And you can't have that as a professional athlete at that level, man.
No, not at that position. Now, here's a very interesting stat line for the both of you guys. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I didn't know it until just now. Did you know what Ben Simmons' shooting percentage is in the fourth quarter throughout the entire series?
It's pretty bad. I know that. I saw that earlier.
The percentage is actually not that bad. The amount of shots is what's bad.
Yes.
He's if memory serves, let me do that math again. He is 5 for 8. So shooting 5 for 8 percentage wise isn't that bad. But he's shooting 5 for 8. He took 8 shots in 7 games in the fourth quarter, going 0 for 0 in the last 3. in the entire fourth quarter.
Right.
That is insane for an all-star point guard for a playoff team that is the number one team in the conference. How does that happen? So, okay, I understand he may be afraid to go through the free throw line because he has problems shooting free throws. I think he shoots a career 35% from the free throw line throughout his entire career and was in the playoffs, which is worst all time, worse than Shaq. But my God, you can't make free throws. You don't take shots.
Right. What
is your worth?
Yeah. And here's the stat, man. And you probably alluded to, you've probably seen this earlier too, D. Mm-hmm. And on ESPN, there's a graphic. Ben Simmons in the fourth quarter, games 4 through 7. He played 34 minutes, scored a grand total of 6 points, 6 of 12 from the free throw line, 0 of 0 from the field.
That's exactly what I just, yes, sir. 0 from 0.
Unbelievable. Yes. Unbelievable.
Yeah, all of those shots he made in the fourth quarter was games 1 through 3.
Right. That you can't have that. Look, Philly's window is small because you have MBs in this injury history. Mm-hmm. You don't know how long Doc's going to be around. Mm-hmm. You gotta, if Philly's really serious, if forget the former Houston general manager who's now in Philly now, if he really wants to maximize their chances, they gotta go out and get some shooters. And I'm sorry, I know Ben Simmons is an elite defender. He gave Trae Young fits. Okay, he's a heck of a rebounder. He's a gifted passer. Hell, to be a 6'10" point guard in this league. But you got to be able to score, and you got to bring in shooters. And I think you should move them, but you got your hand up as if you're in class, D.
Yes, because I just have a quick question.
Excuse me.
I mean, you're 6'10". You're supposed to be a good rebounder. I don't. I wouldn't expect a guy 6'10" to be an elite passer, which he is. Yeah. But you're 6'10". You're supposed to be a good rebounder. Right. The other thing that I want you to do, if you're that good. And what is he a number 1 overall pick? Yes, he is a number 1 overall pick.
Yes, it was.
Yo, you're not taking any shots in the fourth quarter in crunch time? None?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
boggles my mind.
I think I tweeted sad when Ryan Arcidiacono would have been a better offensive point guard for your team in the fourth quarter than Ben Simmons.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's why, I mean, look, I don't know if Philly can find a team that will take on Ben Simmons' contract. I heard names bandied about CJ McCollum. Wow. I heard his name. Of course, we all know about Bradley Beal's name be tossed around. But I don't know how that would fit in Washington with Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons, 2 guys that can't really shoot.
It wouldn't work well because I walk up to Chinatown and have to fight Ben Simmons every day. I'm not having it here. At least Russell Westbrook, as bad as his shot selection can be,
he's not afraid.
Time to time,
yeah,
he's not afraid to take a shot.
Right.
I'll give him that, right? And that was tossed around today, of course, on local radio here, was whether or not fans thought that they should trade away Westbrook for Ben Simmons. And the majority said no, because of course we know that he just can't take a good shot, and even worse, won't take a shot, period, on a team that needs people to take shots, because the only people here now that are taking shots on the regular are Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. If we can get a little bit more consistent, Davis Bertans likes to take a bunch of shots but can't make any shots. God, I miss Bojan. I miss Bojan a bit so bad. He just didn't want to stay here. I'm glad that he went to Utah and he's doing something there, but I miss him. But yeah, he would be number 2 on my all-time, well, actually number 1 on my all-time hit list of people from the Washington organization that I would have to have beef with, because the other one is no longer with us. And that would be Wes Unseld, and I still hate him because of, 1, what he said to me when I was 5 years old, and 2, by trading away Chris Webber, Juwan walked out the door, but trading away Chris Webber Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace. Yeah, I'm still angry about that.
What did he tell you when you was 5 years old? I hadn't heard this story. What did he tell you when you were 5 years old?
Well, 5 years old at that point in time is 1982. A couple of years after they won the title, he's sitting in the audience at the Cap Center. A young, shy brother like myself at 5 years old walks up to him with a toy basketball. As a child, I asked him for his autograph. He tells me, "Get out of my face, kid." Word? Okay, cool.
Wait a minute. He told a 5-year-old child to get out of his face?
Yeah. Get my face, kid. Yeah.
What the hell?
My parents think it's funny. They think it's funny. A parent nowadays would like, "Wow, you want to do that to my child?" Well, yeah, my parents find that
You
funny.
gonna see people fight over that? Come on.
Yeah.
You say, if he rude to my son's 11.
Yeah.
You rude to my son? Come on, son.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's why I was waiting for the day to catch Wes, especially got older on these streets. Catch him on that sleeper hold and whisper to him, "Get out my face, kid. Get out my face, kid." But unfortunately, he's no longer with us.
Right.
And
right.
I'm actually rooting for his son. I like the fact that he is doing a great job as an assistant.
Okay.
There's potential that he might be here as the next head coach. It's either between him or fan favorite Sam Cassell, or maybe even Mark Jackson, or maybe even Becky Hammond. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who comes in here next. But yeah, Ben Simmons, in terms of trade market, Philly's going to have to give up some stuff along with Ben Simmons in order for people to take away Ben Simmons, especially now. There's nowhere in the world that you're going to just sell me on the fact that he's an all-star unless I'm giving you a couple of tomato cans.
Yeah.
That's the only way that works.
With the world bashing, and deservedly so. I think what got lost was how great he played in defense in that game 7. And those last couple possessions for Atlanta, and Trae Young lucked out on one of them. Like, he just reached around, knocked away the ball. He used his length on Trae. He has confidence on the defensive end. You can see that he has that gleam in his eyes when he's playing defense that does not exist on the other end of the floor. And I think that's where the disconnect is. But I mean, whoever gets him, you're getting an elite defender. This is the NBA.
Yeah.
But you know what, Kevin? I would kind of have that confidence too if I was taller than the guy that I'm guarding by like 6 or 7 inches.
Excellent point.
Yeah, the thing is, you would expect a smaller man to be a little bit faster than me, but I am 24. I should probably have a little speed too. And I'm not a beefy 6'10". I might be able to at least keep up with you. If I can keep you in front of me, I'm going to do a great job because I have length over you. So yeah, he should be able to defend these guys and keep them respectable at least. But yeah, if you're not taking shots in the NBA, what good are you? You could have put me in there for the fourth quarter, and I could have got you a bucket. I would have taken our shot.
He's just afraid. Totally.
He's afraid.
You can't have that. You can't have that.
Yeah, and I don't care how many shots he takes. During the off seasons, that's a mental thing. Right. That's a mental block he's going to have to get over.
Yeah, true that. So looks like, fellas, the way it looks now, we're going to have probably again. I should know better than to discount Atlanta at this point. But it just looks like if you look at the matchups, if Milwaukee doesn't play dumb like Charles Barkley said, or stupid, it looks like it's going to be Milwaukee, Phoenix finals. I think LA is going to give a valiant effort, but I think Phoenix is too unafraid. I think they're really, and they're old school, lots of ball movement, and they're fearless. So it looks like it's going to be Phoenix. It's going to be Chris Paul and Giannis going for their first. It's going to be a final of firsts. So I think that would be cool. Hey, if Atlanta makes it, Ice Trae in the finals, cool. If the Clippers make it, the team, the most maligned team in NBA history in the finals, either way, I think it's going to be cool to have some new blood.
Yeah.
It's the new blood right now.
I saw a graphic on Twitter today where it said the 4 teams remaining are 4 out of the 5 teams with the longest droughts of appearing in the final. Not just winning finals, like actually appearing in the NBA finals. So definitely cool.
Yes.
But Scott, one thing I wanted to say, before we wrap up is in your pregame show for, I think it was the 2020 season. You had asked me who I thought the surprise team might be, and I said the Atlanta Hawks. And when I said that, I actually meant the 2020-21 season, not the 2015 a year in advance. I wasn't clear, a year and a half ago when I had predicted.
Give yourself more credit, man. But I'll say this: I think the coaching change to Nate McMillan helped them a lot.
A lot.
And I think because that's the same team. That's the same team that the previous coach had. But Nate McMillan once again could prove that he could coach his butt off. And I think Indiana is still kicking themselves in the ass for letting him go for whatever reasons I'm not going to understand. But hey, bully for Atlanta for picking up the treasure where Indiana considered it trash.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great for Atlanta. But again, this is gonna be cool, guys. This is the Final Four of the NBA are first timers.
Yeah,
essentially. And this is going at least first time in a while in terms of Milwaukee. Well, first time ever for Atlanta and, and Phoenix for a while, and the Clippers first time ever. So it's gonna be cool either way. I love newness. I love freshness, especially all those teams have stars. So you're not getting any lucky, by the way, lucky bounce here and there. These four teams are legit. So I'm looking forward to it, guys. And we already had game one down last night in the Western Conference. So it's going to be very exciting in the East. So that's cool. Hey, man. Thank you, Kevin. This was fun, man. The first time you having the saddle on that video side. Finally, you all got to see who this Kevin dude looks like. I've been talking to audio for so long. Now we can bring your partner on, like Gerard, bring his butt on there so you can see the power team, who I talk to sometimes on the radio show every other Saturday. So that's great. Kevin, thank you, brother.
Yes, thank you.
Have you again soon.
Thanks for having me. And I think your fans will know why I'm in radio now that they can see me. So.
There you go. All right, bro. All right, we're back. Thanks to my man, Kevin McCune. You can catch him on the Weekend Adjustments when he's back on the air with Jared Singleton every Saturday at 4:50 a.m. The Ticket here we're actually in Hamilton, Ohio, right outside Cincinnati. So it's great talking NBA. He's my NBA guy, well as Jared. Both of them are my NBA guys. I'm glad you guys, hope you guys learn some things and have some fun because we had some fun with it. So with that, on that note, we're going to get to our HBCU sports segment. And so Dwayne kind of teased it earlier. We talked about the U.S. Olympic trials. So we got some representation as well going to Tokyo. If they're going to still have a Tokyo Olympics, but that's not a here nor there.
Yeah,
but we still got some representation going there for the HBCU ranks. So Dwayne, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I'm gonna build my way up to what's been going on with the Olympic trials. First and foremost, let me start with news you probably didn't hear about. It is in your backyard over in Canton this past weekend. The Black College Football Hall of Fame had their induction ceremony for the class of 2021, and the members of that class were Corey Bacon from Jackson State. For those who are big Rams fans, they remember him as being 1/4 of the fearsome foursome out of the LA Rams. Greg Coleman out of Florida A&M spent the majority of his NFL career in Minnesota with the Vikings. Jimmy Giles out of Alcorn State actually played with Doug Williams in Tampa, played a little bit in Washington as well. Winston Hill out of Texas Southern. Oddly enough, I don't know exactly how many times it's happened, but Winston is part of that small fraternity of those that were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
What's the name again?
And the HBCU Football Hall of Fame in the same year. Winston, well, I should say in back-to-back years. Winston was part of that class last year. Where he was inducted with the Jets. In 2020, and then he was inducted this year to the 2021 class. Like I said, out of Texas Southern, And if we can go ahead and get this technology going, here we go. Roydell Jones, also out of Alcorn State, played a little bit with Washington and the Philadelphia Eagles at DB. And the coach was Willard Bailey. And I wish I would have known Willard Bailey or who he was during his coaching career. I didn't start doing coverage until 2009. And around that time, he was in the twilight of his coaching career. And I did have a passing of him. I didn't necessarily get a chance to meet him, but he's Coach Bailey spent the majority of his coaching career in the state of Virginia, coaching Virginia Union, Norfolk State, St. Paul's College, which is no longer with us, unfortunately, and Virginia Lynchburg College. Virginia Lynchburg, of course, being a Division II school. And like I said, I caught him his last, it was his last season of coaching. They were in Greensboro facing A&T for A&T's homecoming. And unfortunately, I had no idea who he was. But yeah, he has this huge, great coaching career, especially at Virginia Union and at Norfolk State. And he actually did get a couple of players out of Paul Smith. I remember the last player to come out of Smith, Paul Toller, I think his name is, was a DB out of DC. He was drafted late by the Arizona Cardinals, but that was that class of 2021 for the Black College Hall of Fame. Like I said, this happened this past weekend. Also this weekend, the U.S. track and field Olympic trials, looking to see those that were going to go to Tokyo and compete for Olympic gold or Olympic silver or maybe even Olympic bronze. Now, there were 12 HBCU athletes to go and compete in Eugene in the track and field trials. But as of right now, we have 3 guaranteed heading to Tokyo. Now, Quinera Hayes, oddly enough, unless you know about track and field, Quinera Hayes was
Livingstone College.
Livingstone College, yes, sir. Women's 400. Now, dominant, of course, in the Division II level, in the 100, the 200, and the 4. I think she spent time in the Olympics before as well, but she was competing in the 400. And the story, of course, in that event, I shouldn't say unfortunate, but the story in that event is Allison Felix, because she's in her mid to late 30s and is still competing at a high level. Work. She's still putting in work. Yes. She came in second in the finals, but second to who? Quinera Hayes. So yes, Quinera Hayes put in a season best time in the 400, advancing in that event to Tokyo. And also in the men's 400, we have Randolph Ross, who came in third in the finals, who will be representing A&T and USA in Tokyo as well. Now, coming in fourth place was his teammate, Trevor Stewart. And because of that finish, he becomes a member of the 4x400 relay pool. So he will also be representing the U.S. in Tokyo as well. Now, what makes that so special is because that 4x400 team, which we've been talking about all year long, because they dominated indoor track and field, they dominated outdoor track and field, they're about to go ahead and represent the Olympics too, because all 4 members of that 4x4 relay team will be heading to Tokyo, participating in the Olympics. Daniel Stokes will be competing in a couple of events, as will their other teammate. Well, Stokes will be competing for Mexico, as will Akeem Sirleaf. If memory serves me, he is competing for Nigeria. I need to check that out to make sure. But of course, you can follow me at the Yard HBCU on any social media platform, and the news will be there as well. But yes, all 4 members of that team will be participating in Tokyo for their respective countries. And there are several more athletes that will be competing for a chance to move on to Tokyo as well. So once everyone is signed, sealed, and delivered to head over to Tokyo, I'll have the entire list of all the HBCU athletes that will be headed over there competing for a piece of history. And the last piece of news is, Scott, are you familiar with the basketball tournament?
Yes, I am.
The TBT?
Yep.
Yes. Now, ever since its inception, I've always followed to see whether or not there'll be HBCU players participating for a team, and there always have been.
Right.
This year will be the first year ever where they will have an all HBCU team.
Oh.
Now, this team will be coached by former NBA player and current head coach over in Minnesota, Sam Mitchell.
Oh,
yes,
that's Sam Mitchell.
Yes, that's Sam Mitchell.
Okay, good.
So there's several guys. The majority of them are from the MEAC, along with Robert Klown from Winston-Salem State. But you got guys from Norfolk State, Coppin State, Morgan State, A&T, and Howard. And one of the guys that really stands out to me, of course, outside of Ronald Jackson, because he's an Aggie, of course, is Charles Williams from Howard, because he was part of a backcourt at Howard, where both guards at Howard at the time were averaging 20 points per game.
Oh. Yeah,
that backcourt was monstrous back then. I wish that Williams would have stayed. Oh no, actually, it would have fallen to COVID about a year or two later if he would have done that anyway. So we never would have got a chance to see it. But yeah, it would have been nice to have seen what Williams would have done with a different coach and better players on that squad. But yeah, we'll get an opportunity to see him play at the TBT.
Now, do any of these young men, I call them young men because they're younger than we are, do they play overseas professionally?
Yes.
Okay.
Johnson does. Let me see who else is on this list that plays overseas. So I know, not Johnson, I'm sorry, Jackson does. And I think one of the Coppin State guys do as well. But I know Jackson does for sure.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned Sam Mitchell's name. I was been a fan of his, even though he played for the Pacers in the 90s when they went up against my Knicks in the playoffs. But I really love his analysis on NBA radio, on Sirius XM. I think it's the NBA Weekend. I forgot the show he's on. But he has so much insight as a former player and a former coach. Knows his X and O's and how to deal with the Jimmys and Joes as well. He's really excellent. If you have a chance, I don't know if you have Sirius XM or not, but if you do, good. I don't remember when he's on. I know he's on weekends. I don't know if he's on during a week or not. I think he is.
Okay.
But anyway, just Google his name, you'll find him. But if you have a chance to listen to his commentary along with his co-host, it's awesome. It's like a clinic. So he's Sam again. Props, shout out to Sam Mitchell. He's doing a damn thing in Sirius XM radio. He's awesome with that. On that note, we're going to our random shit segment brought to you by absolutely no one who cares. I don't know if you heard this, but I just ran across my radar right around dinner time. We have a first.
Okay.
Having to come from the NFL. A young man named Nassib. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. The Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me. He became the first NFL player to come out as gay.
Yes, I did hear about that. Yes.
And he is going to pledge, or is pledging $100,000 to the Trevor Project. For those who don't know what the Trevor Project is, Google it. But basically, it's named after, I think, a young man who actually experienced some trauma. I think he ended up paying the price of his life for it. But the Trevor Project also provides crisis intervention, I'm reading here, and suicide prevention services to the LGBTQ community. So that's what the Trevor Project is. I have relatives, well, at least one close relative to me, one of my big cousins, who's gay, and it changes having someone come out to you, not to me, but out to the family. It changes your perspective. So, I mean, cynics can look at it however way they want to. We're not here to change their minds, but
no,
I think it serves courage on Carl's part because again, he's a third round. I mean, the guy is not a scrub. He has 20 and a half career sacks in 73 games. Started 37 of those games. He's a third round draft pick out of the Browns in the 2016 draft. He signed a 3-year contract with the Raiders last offseason. And, you know, he was a Big Ten Player of the Year 2015, Penn State grad. And he won the Lombardi Award as the best college football lineman and linebacker in 2015. So he comes with credentials. He's a damn good player, as you know, as far as his pro stats. So he's not a scrub. So for him to do this, which tells me he has the support of his teammates, because you kind of figured, even though it was a 53-man roster, you're around these guys, especially in position meetings, you're around these guys a lot.
You're around them a lot.
So know, I mean, Kenny Smith said when he was playing NBA, he knew who the players were. He had teammates who were gay. He just never outed them because they didn't want to be out.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not their business. It's not our business to know.
Right.
If they choose to come out and let us know, wonderful. But I don't care about what your sexual habits are, and I'll get to sexual habits in just a moment. But continue.
But as long as the man, as long as that you can play.
Yeah.
If you can play, you can be whatever you want to be, right? So I think obviously, like I said, he had his support of his teammates because they have to know, and his coaching staff, particularly the head coach, John Gruden. So, I mean, trust me when I say, and you probably already figured this, I think a lot of the fans out there already figured this out. When he came out today, it's not like we were the first to know. And I'll leave it at that.
Of course.
His teammates, coaching staff, probably the owner, Mark Davis, who's pretty much like a progressive owner as it was, and his daddy, the great Al Davis, was a trailblazer. Remember, he hired the first female executive. He hired the first Black coach. He hired the first Latino coach before that. And Tom Flores, who's finally in the Hall of Fame. It took them long enough.
It really did take.
But he got his ass in the Hall of Fame. So good for Tom Flores. But still, so this is a forward-thinking organization. The Raiders. Say what you want about the on-field performance. It's a forward.
I want to say, on-field performance. Say what you want, but in terms of front office
and ownership, captain. Yeah, thank you,
definitely.
Because they were forward thinkers. Even when they were in the AFL, they were one of the first to go after Black players for HBCUs. They were go ahead.
Not just leadership, but in terms of decision making, you know, they were one of the first. Oh my God, that whole documentary of Davis versus the NFL or Davis versus Goodell. That is a great 30 for 30 in terms of a history lesson as it pertains to pro sports and them dealing with deals within respective cities, and how Al Davis was kind of the father of that in negotiating deals, regardless of how you feel about them, but negotiating deals that would help pro teams move from one city to another. Yeah.
So he was a very forward-thinking owner. Rest in peace, Al Davis. And props to Mark Davis for, I mean, he was like this during the Colin Kaepernick situation. He did not come out against his players kneeling. He supported them. He's one of the few owners to openly support that. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's a forward-thinking organization. And, you know, when they become good again, that'll be awesome because, I mean, I like them as an organization, even though as a Steelers fan growing up, I didn't like the Raiders as a team, but as an organization, you know, they're one of few progressive-minded organizations in all pro sports. So again, props to Carl Nassib. Again, I hope I'm getting his last name correct, pronouncing his last name correctly, and his courage in coming out. So hopefully the players and his peers will rally around him, and maybe, you know, it always takes one person to push the boulder down the hill. So maybe other players. I mean, hell, this is a different time now. Maybe other players would feel more comfortable, you know, coming out and saying their truths. Maybe they would do the same thing. So who knows? But I think you had something else to add on the other side of the flip side of that stuff.
Yeah, we're about to get a little sophomoric in just a moment. But to answer your question, Tywan Kindly that played at Morgan State, along with Philip Carr that played at Morgan State, they're the other two players along with Ronald Jackson Jr. out of North Carolina A&T that are currently playing internationally.
Okay, cool.
But to the sophomoric stuff,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Remember the name I said earlier tonight? Aliza Jane?
Yes.
Does that name ring a bell with you at all?
I'll do a quick Google search right quick. I'll probably know when I see it, but
okay. Well, while you're searching, it came out on social media this week that she feels partially responsible for the success of the Phoenix Suns based upon the interaction that she had with them. Yes. Last year, during Memorial Day weekend. Do you want me to continue to tell the story there?
Please
Scott?
Please do. I need to laugh.
Okay, so an interview that she did with another young lady. I don't even remember who the other young lady is that she knows. They were on the podcast No Jumper. And Miss Jane.
Oh my God.
And her friend they're talking about.
I just read it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's quite all right. They're talking about their sexual prowess with entertainers. And they get into a conversation about her birthday, which just happens to fall around Memorial Day weekend. Right?
Okay.
So she tells a story of how she's having sex with a gentleman who just happens to be on the coaching staff of the Phoenix Suns. And at the time, they're in a hotel room. 7 players from the Phoenix Suns just happened to walk into the room while they're going at said act. And
just happened to walk in.
They just happened to walk in.
AKA they had a train going, but go ahead.
Well, technically they didn't vaginally penetrate. They didn't vaginally penetrate her, but they did have a time. And she said she was being lit. That's the actual quote from her. I didn't care. I was lit. Okay. Now, oddly enough, since that encounter, you're not going to believe this stat. The Phoenix Suns have gone a combined 68-23 since that encounter, which also includes their time in the bubble.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That is very hilarious. So now she is out in these streets taking credit for the success of the Phoenix Suns. Now, mind you, of course, Chris Paul was not on the team at the time that happened. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of eliminate him from that 7.
Yeah.
But he's also married, so I doubt very seriously he will be involved in that situation
with
too.
Kids. Yes.
Yes, with kids. And I would hope and pray he wouldn't get put in that situation. But still, 7 guys from that roster, they have since gone 6, and that's combined playoff run as well. 68-23 since that encounter in Memorial Day last year. And
we chose the wrong profession.
Well, I mean, it was kind of chosen for us when we didn't go past 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, but still, we it goes to show you, no matter, especially in the NBA.
I mean, I'm not going to be Miss Jane. I'm not going to follow in her footsteps. But you mean that's the NBA? Yeah.
As far as it goes to show you, you don't have to be the best looking guy in the world.
No.
If you put the ball in the hoop and get paid a lot of money for it, you can have any woman you want. Remember Tyron Hill? Insanely ugly he is.
Yeah.
He's played at Xavier University here in Cincinnati. Went on to have a long NBA career, notably with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Cavs,
He was on Charles Barkley's all ugly team. Charles Barkley had an all ugly team. So it was him. It was headlined by Tyron Hill, Popeye Jones. I forget the other 2 cats, but the main headliner was Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell, yeah. It's most definitely Sam Cassell. It's funny that you say that. A buddy of mine who's one of your frat brothers was going to do as part of his thesis in grad school, he was going to do like a graphic project and was going to call it the NBA. Where you talk where it was going to be on the ugliest players in NBA history. Yeah, and Tyrone Hill was one of those guys on that list. But once again, when your pockets is fat,
any woman you want. If you're a baller, And if you get paid lots of money, you don't have to be a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid, it helps, but if you get lots of money to put the ball in the hoop for a living, you can have almost any girl you want.
Mm-hmm.
And there are legendary stories about guys being on the road. And I'm gonna leave you this one last thing right quick. My dad, God rest his soul, it was like maybe 10 years ago, maybe it was longer than that. But they had a document, it was like I don't know, it was a 2020
Okay.
or 60 Minutes, might have been 60 Minutes. But they have former NBA players talking to them. This is probably around the time of the lockout, I guess. And they're talking about stories, right? Be on the road. So I don't want to say that there was a party at a player's house. I want to say it was Charles Oakley's house. I don't know for sure. But some of the players there, I don't want to call names because the memories is foggy. Again, it's been over 10 years ago. Maybe longer than that. But the point is, actually it was longer than that. But the point is there were some star players that we heard of at that party. And they have women in their bikinis. These women are in outstanding shape.
Of course they are.
Doing handstands, walking on their hands, doing splits. And they're outside this said player's mansion's pool. Drinking, eating. Again, they're fully clothed, the guys. But the women, bikinis, again, walking on their hands, doing handstand splits. Again, these women are phenomenal shape. This is before Twitter, right? And
thank God.
Yeah, thank God it's correct. Well, not thank God for me. I would have loved to see it. But anyway, I could probably Google it for that matter. But the point is that my dad, he always say, late in the evening, you see one guy, and they always have more women than there were guys. So
of course.
So they have one guy take one young lady by the hand, go into dude's mansion. Then it starts with another guy, take another lady's hand, another guy, take another lady's hand. Some guys had two ladies. And yeah. That's the NBA baller's life.
Yeah. What does Jalen Rose call it? Champagning and campaigning. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note,
yes,
we're going to end the podcast because we're going to be nefarious and probably downright scandalous. Thank you for tuning in tonight's podcast. Please check out Dwayne Nash, the Yard / HBCU Sports, reps of all things HBCU Sports. You see the website on this post behind him, theyardhbcu.com. You see the Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram images back there. Check him out there. Also check him out on Sleazy Radio every Tuesday now, Facebook Live. You won't be sorry if you catch it. You will be sorry if you don't. And last but not least, herosports.com. It's great work where we talk about FCS as pertains HBCUs. Please follow me on the clowntimes.net. Please get the merch at cafepress.com. Again, you have the merch. You have the links to set merch in the description after I upload it to YouTube. And hit the subscribe button. With 6 subscribers away from 100, I'm going to party like it's on sale for $19.99. So please hit the subscribe button there so we have some fun as well. And again, thanks to Kevin McCune for his insight on the NBA. It's a lot of fun. Hope we have him and his boy Jared back. And we're coming out of the pandemic, but please, if you haven't done so already, get yourself vaccinated, keep your hands washed, wear a mask, stay safe, enjoy these NBA playoffs. And again, we're going to have a hiatus. This is the end of the first season, if you will, of our video podcast. We're going to kick it off 2 weeks from tonight. I'll be out of town this week. I'll be taking it easy the following week. We'll get back in the South 2 weeks from now, probably in the midst of the NBA Finals. So that'll be a great time to get back into it. And we'll go from there. So thank y'all again for the support. And we're going to have some more fun in season 2. So stay tuned. Take care. Until then, peace the hell out.